Floki, you crazy.
Lifetime. Every night. Welcome to yet another episode of Mentors Mentality. I am Sabelo Hlongwane, otherwise known as Coach Sabza. The topic for today I will be discussing is burning out, right? Or the importance of time off to avoid burning out, or when you do burn out, right? So as always, I will use a soccer experience or sports experience to better elaborate my learning, and I'll use a life situation where that benefited me or where it could benefit you from my lesson. Okay, so burning out is essentially doing something so many times or too many times that it starts to feel more like pressure, okay? And so you want to stop it altogether as opposed to taking a break from it. That's what burning out really feels like. And so I felt that it was a very important discussion because too many times I've seen people burn out and I've wondered why, or, how could they have avoided the burnout, or what contributed to the burnout. Right? I have many examples. So first example I will use is something I've noticed in women's soccer. In women's soccer as a coach, I've noticed that a lot of players will play, kids will play soccer from a young age, and for some or other reason, by the time they get to college, they want to stop playing so that they could, as they put it, have a social life. So it's almost to say that there wasn't a social life in soccer or while they were playing soccer, right? And I'll come back to my thoughts on it, but I just wanted to share examples. Another one was with myself. I think I was around the age of 23 or so. I had committed my life to soccer since I was 15. And so I was plus minus 8 years deep, 8 years into the experiences, and looking at where I should have been or where I felt I should have been. I felt like I wasn't there yet and I needed to be there, and time was running out, and I just felt like maybe I just needed to stop altogether, just take a break, or just do something different, or reward myself with experiences away from the game, right? Other instances I've been with work, in work situations where I've worked so hard or for so long or so many times that I just needed to step away. Stepping away can be different from taking a break. Right? Stepping away is almost like giving up. Taking a break is like time off and then coming back at a later stage to continue what you want to see happen or what you are trying to achieve. Right? So back to the example I made about the girls' soccer, right? It's just something, I'm not trying to be biased or, to the men's soccer or sexist to women's soccer in any way. It's just something I've really noticed, genuinely speaking. And I'm working on trying to help the future generation avoid that, which is why I felt that it was necessary for me to bring it up. So I've had situations or encounters where parents have tried to live through their kid, and so they put their kid in soccer and expect their kid to be successful because maybe they were good, or maybe they were okay or thought they were good or saw a lot of success in it and felt that they could do the same through their kid, and so they encourage their kid to play, put pressure on them, make them practice a lot, take them to practice when they don't even want to be there. I recall many occasions where players have been at practice and I've asked them during practice, what did you want to achieve before you came here today? What was your goal or your aim? And the responses that I've received were, I didn't even want to come today. And I would ask them, why are you here? Well, my parents made me come, right? I'm not saying if a kid doesn't want to do something, it's okay, it's their decision all the time. I understand that as parents, we have to encourage and, motivate them to do so, but how we go about it needs to be altered, right, at times. And there's always a time to also recognize the value in what your child is saying to you and how you need to receive that and how you can use that to help them overcome that moment and still go to practice, but with a different attitude and mindset, right? Because if your attitude is in the wrong place or your mind is in the wrong place, you're not really there to learn, you're not learning. Nor are you focused on learning the right things. Even if you are learning something, it's more so what becomes muscle memory. But if you are negative, even in those reps, your body language speaks and it sends messages to your muscle memory that says, this is how we want to conduct ourselves. Even if it's negative, the result's going to be negative, right? And so I've seen it so many times, right? And then by the time the player gets to their junior year in high school and you see so much potential as a coach, you're thinking, man, she can go far. She can do things. She's probably a D1 prospect. If she would just tweak a thing or two, adjust this or that, learn this lesson as opposed to that, she's right there at the door, right? And then you find out that that player doesn't want to play soccer anymore. And to me, it's mind-blowing. I'm just like, how is that even an option on the table, right? And it's a sense of burning out. The player's burnt out, right? But through experiences away from sports, I think I learned more on how to avoid burnout, right? And what I've done recently as well is picked up on a different sport. I picked up golf just as a side sport, right? Just something to do that takes my mind and body away from the norm, right? In the same way that employees that work for Google are now, Google came out with a different methodology, right, on how employees should be treated and what the employee's environment should be like. And with the pandemic, we have learned a lot on, the fact that you don't have to be there physically all the time to work, and you can get a lot of work done from home. And there are many ways to achieve the same goals, right? And it's changed a lot of things in our day-to-day life. And I feel like it's contributed away from the burnout aspect of sitting behind a desk every single day in front of a screen for 8, 9, 10 hours on end and then going home. Because then even your body starts to feel like that's a norm. But at some point in time, your body's going to be worn and torn, right? And I think one thing that really woke me up to that importance of avoiding a burnout was there's a gentleman that I met, Mr. Ingram. He's a trainer, right? Very good friend of mine too. So he said to me, I was training his son and I was expressing my thoughts, and he said, that the way that you explain things really makes sense and resonates with me with him, right? In that he believes that I think I made a reference on muscle memory, but he believes that if a sportsman or woman is capable of executing one thing at 100%, as they train and do it over and over and over and over and over, they're getting it better, but they need time to rest. If they don't take time to rest and they go train extra and then go to a game, in that game, they're basically giving out, or possibly giving out 60% of what they could do, right? Whereas if they would have taken more time to rest, they could actually give 100%. But in developing or in having a drive, you have this mindset of, I need to do more in order to be a lot better, right? I need to do more to be more capable. And that's the mindset. Neglecting the fact that your body itself can burn out, right? And so that was a lesson that when he expressed it, I thought it was a light bulb, right? I was like, that is a great way, not that I've never thought of it, but it was a great way to elaborate the point to players or clients that I coach and just let them know that if we train every single day and then we have a game on Saturday, for example, so we start Monday to Friday, Saturday we're playing. The reason why practices on Monday can be heavy on your body and heavy on your legs, and practices on Friday should be very light and, less work, and Thursday is a little bit lighter than Wednesday, and Wednesday is kind of tough but not too tough, and Tuesday is not as tough as Monday but still tough. That balances out to where by the time Saturday comes, your body's recovered from everything you've had to do during the week, everything you've learned, and is ready to play and perform at 100%, right? But you have players that will go hit the gym on Friday because they have a game on Saturday and they think they need to do that, but they're beating up their body, and then you wonder why the next day you don't perform well, right? I have a friend of mine. He's a physical therapist. His name is Regis Mawaya. So Regis expressed to me how, we started a season with Arkansas Wolves, and I was playing with them last summer. And I was, training a lot, and I wanted to have a great season. And, we showed up at practice, and I performed well at practice, and then I hit the gym the very next day, and then we had a game the day after that. And my performance in the game was, decision-making, wasn't an issue, but like physical expression, body and all, was limited, right? And by the time the game ended, I expressed to Regis, what I felt like I was struggling with. And so he asked me, he was like, oh, I could see where you're coming from. And he just asked me a simple question. He was like, what did you do the day before the game? And I told him, I was like, well, I worked out, I did this. And he was like, well, what muscle area did you work out? And I told him. And then he asked me, what did I do 2 days before the game? And I told him. And then he was like, well, on Wednesday I saw you. Yeah, so he said, on Wednesday at practice, you seemed to be performing well, but, you were more energetic at practice. Did you take time to rest between that practice session and Saturday's game? And I said, no. So he said, okay, try this next week. After Wednesday, kind of like simmer down a little bit, but take Friday off, right? As a hard worker, I'm like, Friday off. I might do something light on Friday. So he was like, well, you could stretch on Friday or meditate, do yoga, something. And I was like, okay. And I did that, and I noticed how my performance at practice and how my performance at games were both at a high peak. And I thought, well, I was burning my body out before, and now I'm not, right? And this is not a long time ago, so I'm still learning as I grow, as always. And so I just felt like, okay, if this is something that I obviously experience physically, I could also experience it mentally. I need to discuss this with my players a little more often, or people that I work with, right? And a lot of people have said to my daughter, they always ask her, do you play soccer? Are you going to play soccer? Are you going to be as good as your dad? And they'll always ask her questions like that. And to me, the funny thing is I never expected my daughter to play soccer at all, right? At all. I just didn't want to be the type of parent that tries to live through their kid. I didn't want to be the type of parent that encourages their kid to overwork to the point of burning out. I didn't want my daughter to hate the sport without understanding it first, right? I wanted her to enjoy it above anything else if she ever did indulge in it. And so I've expressed this to my daughter too. She's very young, but I've expressed the fact that soccer is fun to me. It's all about fun, right? Nothing more, nothing less. As you mature and grow and put yourself in different environments of that sport that are competitive, you have to respect that environment and become competitive. But you can't be competitive all the time. Right, and this is something I mentioned just this previous weekend because I play on a Sunday league. And in the Sunday league, the guys out there have seen me play on so many levels, and they're like, wow, Sabelo, you need to perform at this level all the time. And I express to them, my life is so serious when it comes to soccer because I've made it a career, right? And I love the sport. But Sundays are a fun time for me to kick back and relax within the sport because if I don't have my Sundays, I'm afraid I'll burn out, right? If I don't have my Sundays the way that I want to have my Sundays, I will burn out. And I don't want to burn out. I want to avoid the burnout, and this is how I avoid a burnout, okay? And with that said, I wanted to share ways to avoid burning out, right? If you feel like you've been doing something repetitively over and over for so long, I believe rewarding yourself with time off. Reward, right? It's a reward because you're doing good. So when you do good, you get rewards. So reward yourself with time off. Reward yourself with time with family. Reward yourself with time with friends, right? In some of my podcasts, I've mentioned how I would be at the field running and my friends would be having fun. As time went on, to avoid burning out, I took time away from the field and enjoyed my friends. Did I indulge in everything they did? No, but I made time to be around them because I knew that that was important to me too. And in those times, we would still talk about soccer, and it still encouraged me to say, by saying, you're doing great. Don't engage in the things we engage in. We know we tease you a lot about it, but we don't mean it. It's just banter, just friendliness. We would love to see you succeed in life, especially in soccer, because you've committed yourself so much, and we see that, and you're driven. And so, those times of taking away from the sport and the seriousness in terms of focus and mindset still had a positive contribution to the sport and my career in itself, right? And so I would advise for anybody to avoid burning out by rewarding themselves with time with things that matter. Sometimes you got to do things that don't matter just to avoid burning out, right? Like how I picked up golf. Not to say I love the experience of learning something new and growing in that, but it doesn't mean anything to me to perform well, to score a birdie, a hole in one, par. But because I am, somewhat competitive in a sense, I do want to make sure that I have a good drive. I do want to make sure I understand the sport enough and the scoring and what it means to have a good swing and pitching. And, but when I go and play golf with friends, it's to compete for banter purposes, for fun, right? Just to say I beat you and, I can make fun of that situation, but it doesn't mean anything to me. All it contributes is a free mind and time away from what I always focus on and work hard in and try to achieve and, my goals. I just think that it's very important as a human being to just give yourself that time off, because too much of life being serious can really break you down more than build you up. And so I would hate for anybody, just like my players, that I've coached and have now gone to college to pursue playing soccer further when I felt like they had all the potential in the world. I would hate for you to stop something that could not only better your life, but could inspire and motivate others later in life simply because of a burnout, right? Simply because you are unable to better manage your time in a sense. So, as I said, I just felt like it was a very important topic to discuss because I've seen it happen one too many times. Other aspects, like parents don't realize this because when you become a parent, there's this sense of overwhelming feeling to be a great parent, to take care of your kid and the pressures that come with the kid and the bills and the this and the that. I strongly believe as much as you want to spend time around your kids and be with your kids and do all for your kids, you need time away from your kids so you can better reflect about yourself and who you are and what you want to do. And I think that could contribute a better life, not only for you and to you, but to your kids too, right? And that's why I say, as long as you try to learn to grow, to benefit yourself or to benefit your surroundings, your environment, or those around you, I think it's important to do whatever it takes to achieve that, right? But, people say life is short. Life can be long too. But when they say life is short, it's to ensure that you recognize that, some moments only come once in a lifetime. And so taking time to enjoy those is key, right? An example for me would have been like when my daughter was a lot younger and she did things that, I would have wanted to catch on camera and, post, right? And, I'd always have a voice in my head that just tells me like, and to me it's God, right? God speaking to me and he says, this moment is just for you, man. It's not for anybody else. It's just for you. And that recognition opens up a lot of peace for me because it allows me to separate myself from everything else. It allows me to live in the moment and nowhere else. It allows me to appreciate the moment and have that memory in my head and not share that memory with anybody, which makes me be who I am today, whether people understand me or not. The fact that I take that time for myself to recognize what works for me and how that benefits those around me, I think it gives me so much peace that I would like to share that with everybody else and ensure that they can experience, or everybody can experience, their own sense of peace, But yeah, very important lesson, life lesson. My advice to players out there on the female side, a lot of you quit playing and then colleges end up taking whoever decided not to quit, which is more than likely, or most of the time, not always going to be the most talented of players. And so the sport in the end suffers because your talent is not shared or expressed on the field. So I'm sure there are kids out there that are not motivated or inspired when they could have been if you would have just continued to play, but taken time away to avoid the burnout. Just a piece of advice from me to you. And so feel free to comment. Let me know what your thoughts are on burning out, what you might have burnt out on, what you burnt out on and reflect later on and wish you wouldn't have burnt out on, because now you feel like your life might have went differently. You feel like you're living with regret. I would just say, if you are in that situation, just whatever you are committed to now, see it through. However, make sure you take time away from it too, so you don't burn out from that. Be it your job, be it your relationship, be it your friends, be it your, whatever it may be, just make sure you give yourself that isolation time for you, right? So, when you get back into it, you're giving it your all, right? You're not thinking or hoping you're giving it your all, you actually are. But yeah, like, share, comment, subscribe, all the things. I really appreciate your time. As always, this is Coach Sabza out.
Damn, Floki, you crazy.
Life try, every time.